this Right to Property and Constitutional Amendment lecture series, I have already spoken about the first constitutional amendment and the challenge to the validity of the first Constitutional Amendment Act in the judgment of Shankari Prasad Singh Dio versus Union of India. I will be speaking about the fourth constitutional amendment and subsequent developments which resulted into the 17th constitutional amendment. The fourth constitutional amendment was passed with regards to the abolition of zamindari system, wherein certain amendments were made under Article 31 Clause 2 and Article 31A. Certain acts were placed under Schedule 9 of the Constitution. The statement of object and reasons for the fourth constitutional amendment provided that while the abolition of zamindaris and the numerous intermediaries between the state and the tiller of the soil has been achieved for the most part, our next objectives in land reforms are the fixing of limits to the extent of agricultural land that may be owned or occupied by any person, the disposal of any land held in excess of the prescribed maximum, and the further modification of the rights of the landowners and tenants in agricultural lands. So after the abolition of the zamindari system, the next step was to prescribe for the land ceiling and also for the tenancy rights of the tenants. In order to achieve this socio-economic reforms policy, certain amendments were necessary under the Constitution, and therefore Article 31 Clause 2 was amended, as in the judgment of State of West Bengal versus Bela Banerjee, the Supreme Court held that the compensation to be provided to the persons who are losing their property has to be just and adequate, as the meaning of the word compensation would include a just and adequate compensation. The Supreme Court in the judgment of Bela Banerjee also declared the validity of the act to be ultra vires the Constitution. In order to nullify the judgment of the Supreme Court in the matter of State of West Bengal versus Bela Banerjee, the Fourth Constitutional Amendment Act was introduced. The amendment to Article 31 Clause 2 provided that no property shall be compulsorily acquired or requisitioned save for a public purpose and save by authority of a law which provides for compensation for the property so acquired or requisitioned, and either fixes the amount of the compensation or specifies the principle on which and the manner in which the compensation is to be determined and given, and no such law shall be called in question in any court on the ground that the compensation provided by that law is not adequate. An amendment to Article 31A provided that notwithstanding anything contained in Article 13, no law providing for the acquisition by the state of any estate or of any right herein shall be deemed to be void on the ground that it is inconsistent with or takes away or abridges any of the rights conferred by Article 14, 19 or 31. So the position after the Fourth Amendment was that the deprivation of property was divided into two categories. One was compulsory acquisition and requisition, which falls under Article 31 Clause 2, and second was the deprivation of property, which falls under Article 31 Clause 1. In the first case, the payment of compensation is obligatory, whereas in the second case, it is discretionary. So after the Fourth Constitutional Amendment, what the Parliament provided was that it did not want to pay adequate, just and proper compensation to the persons who are deprived of their properties. As the state exchequer did not have so much revenue to pay just and adequate compensation, the amendment again took away the power of the High Court and Supreme Court in order to examine the provisions of the Act with respect to acquisition of estates in order to abolish the zamindari system. The amendment provided that even though if Article 14, 19 and 31 are violated, the courts cannot declare the said acts to be void if it provided for acquisition of property of the estates of the zamindar. So despite of the Fourth Constitutional Amendment, the Supreme Court examined the validity of several enactments made by state legislatures, and from 1955 to 1964, the Supreme Court declared the validity of several acts to be unconstitutional, namely the Rajasthan Tenancy Act of 1955, the Madras Removal of Doubts Act 1955, the Maharashtra Agricultural Land Ceiling and Holding Act 1961, the Madras Land Reforms Act of 1961, and also the Kerala Agrarian Relations Act 1961 to be unconstitutional. The Supreme Court circumscribed the scope of the Fourth Constitutional Amendment as was evident in the judgment of Kochuni versus State of Madras and Kunhi-Konam versus State of Kerala. In the judgment of Kunhi-Konam versus State of Kerala, the question was regarding the validity of the Kerala Agrarian Relations Act 1961, wherein the question was with regards to the acquisition of the Ryotwari system. The Ryots were as such not zamindars but were the tillers of the land, and therefore the Supreme Court held that the Ryots did not come within the purview of the definition of estates, and therefore the protection of Article 31A and 31B was not extended to such land tenures, and therefore held that the Kerala Agrarian Relation Act 1961 violated Article 19 and 31 and therefore was held to be unconstitutional. It is because of these judgments that the 17th constitutional amendment had to be passed in the year 1965, which placed 44 state enactments under Schedule 9. It also placed all the enactments which were declared by the Supreme Court to be ultra vires the Constitution under Schedule 9 with retrospective effect. So the judgments of the Supreme Court declaring those acts to be ultra vires came to be nullified. And despite of having provisions which violated fundamental right, and despite of the acts having been declared to be ultra vires, were made valid by placing them under Schedule 9, as they became immune to challenge before the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court became a mere spectator of acts which were declared to be ultra vires, and despite that were placed under Schedule 9 and were implemented in the respective states. The statement of object and reasons for the 17th constitutional amendment provided that Article 31A of the Constitution provides that the law, in respect of the acquisition by the state of any estate or of any right therein, or the extinguishment or modification of any such right, shall not be deemed to be void on the ground that it is inconsistent with or takes away or abridges any of the rights conferred by Article 14, Article 19, or Article 31. The protection of this article is available only in respect of such tenures as were estates on 26 January 1950, when the Constitution came into force. The expression estate has been defined differently in different states, and as a result of the transfer of land from one state to another on account of reorganization of state, the expression has come to be defined different parts of the same state. Moreover, many of the land reform enactments relate to lands which are not included in an estate. Several state acts relating to land reform were struck down on the ground that the provisions of those acts were violative of Article 14, 19, and 31 of the Constitution, and that the protection of Article 31A was not available to them. It is therefore proposed to amend the definition of estates in Article 31A of the Constitution by including therein lands held under Ryotwari settlement and also other lands in respect of which provisions are normally made in land reform enactment. So therefore, by way of the 17th constitutional amendment, the definition of estate was enlarged, and also the land tenures which were not actually estates under the zamindar system were also included, like the Ryotwari system, and also it placed 44 other enactments under Schedule 9. This constitutional amendment was challenged before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court delivered the judgment in the matter of Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan. Each major constitutional amendment took away the power of the constitutional courts from examining the validity of the acts, irrespective of whether it violated the fundamental rights or not. So therefore, taking away the judicial review was altering the basic structure of the Constitution. But despite this, those amendments were held to be valid. I will be speaking about the landmark judgment of Sajjan Singh versus State of Rajasthan in the next video.